It's worth mentioning that SpaceX has played a significant role in injecting young people with the passion of space exploration. If we take you a few decades back in time, you'll only see a handful of people interested in knowing about space, rockets, and whatnot. But now, you see much more enthusiasm among people. And that's all due to the exciting news coming every other day from the headquarters of SpaceX, as it has always went beyond the ordinary. Its Starship has caught the attention of billions of people around the globe, as numerous organizations, companies, and high-profile individuals have their eyes on this spacecraft, but most importantly, the United States military. But what would they be planning to demand from SpaceX? Any guesses? Well, let's find out as we welcome you back to our channel, where you join the space exploration journey with us and discover challenges and mysteries of cosmic adventures. The start of 2024 came with some crazy news for SpaceX fans, when the U.S. Ministry of Defense showed interest in using Starships for military operations. Yes, you've heard it right. The U.S. military is actually willing to get a Starship from SpaceX. Doesn't it seem more like snatching away Elon Musk's? As his vision is completely different from what the military may be planning to do. Military seems to be least interested in going to Mars or carrying out any other space operations. However, what they wish is to use the abilities of starships to transport troops and supplies from one part of our planet to the other. The Space Mobility Conference in Orlando at the start of this year was a crucial one for SpaceX. The potential of starships was extensively discussed in the conference, especially in terms of uplifting the national security of the U.S. But the response from SpaceX was, as expected. The senior advisor at SpaceX, Gary Henry, explained that the ultimate purpose of building a Starship is to reach Mars. He said, "Rocket cargo, point-to-point ships are not the reason we built Starships. We're building a Starship to get to Mars. But what we are finding is it's a system we're putting together that has profound impacts on national security, and one of them just happens to be rocket point-to-point." Even though SpaceX doesn't seem to care much about the military operations advised by the Ministry of Defense, it's worth admitting that Starship is one-of-a-kind rocket with exceptional properties when it comes to the size, payload capacity, and the flexibility to land and fly is certainly beyond expectations. And this is why the military aims to use this magnificent piece of art for delivering supplies and even troops in the coming future. As the nature of war is evolving tremendously, the protocols of war are also being revolutionized by militaries around the world. And it's no surprise that the U.S. military wants to set an example for it. This idea was in the radar of the U.S. military for more than 2 decades, but it's now coming closer to reality as we speak. The chief scientist for the Air Force Research Lab said, "Envision a number of containers sitting in a warehouse down in Cape Canaveral. We go to an alert level, we pull them up, you start putting them on the rocket. At each successive level alert, your time to launch shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and we can get it down to 1 hour." Using starships is not the only concern here. There's also a need for launch sites to support this idea. For this, the cargo bay of the Starship is also being analyzed to figure out how the military can take full benefit in case of a supply run. The fun fact is that the cost they'll have to bear is much less than what they are spending currently on moving supplies from one corner of the planet to the other via cargo planes such as C-12 Huron, C-41 Aviocar, and many others. If we talk about the actual price for sending supplies through Starships, it's expected to drop down to $90 per pound, which is fascinating, isn't it? If SpaceX starts to speed up the engine manufacturing frequency as they planned and make more refined modifications in the design of the engine and the rockets, this price can certainly drop down to $9 per pound as well, which now seems to be impossible to many who doubt the potential of SpaceX in reaching magnificent milestones. Moreover, as SpaceX is planning to build more than 1,000 Starships, there's nothing to worry about when it comes to the frequency of the operations. As cargo planes can carry supplies by planning hundreds of trips annually, Starships will also try to match this frequency of trips, And for this, Gary Henry even said, and if just assuming you have a rapidly reusable system that could, let's say, launch twice a day from a single launch base, you're going to find very, very quickly that we're going to run out of places to launch. Unfortunately, SpaceX currently only has one usable launch tower at the Starbase in Texas. But in the coming future, you can expect this number to increase drastically. If SpaceX needs to align with the vision of the US military, they'll need dozens of launch sites for sure. This all might sound fiction, but it will become reality soon. You'll see starships carrying military personnel and supplies in no time, as you see planes in the sky right now. However, there are consequences to this idea that both the US military and SpaceX need to take into consideration before implementing any of such joint operations. And the biggest challenge at stake is environmental degradation, a very sensitive issue these days. The US Air Force, NASA, FAA, and the US Coast Guards conducted a combined study examining the adverse effects of extensive launch pads and rocket operations on the environment worldwide. The research on this issue is ongoing as we wait for the final decisions from both the US military and SpaceX. Yet, if the US doesn't make their conclusion on this topic early enough, there are many countries that are in the race to achieve the same milestone, and on top of that list is certainly China. As they performed their first launch in the South China Sea recently, the US is afraid that they might steal the spotlight. Still, it all comes down to the decisions made by SpaceX, if they really want to revolutionize the way military operations are carried out on our beautiful little planet. This was a look inside the crazy Starship demand from the US military this year. Want to know more about the upcoming space programs and what's changing in our space? Subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share your valuable feedback in the comments section. Don't forget to check out the latest videos on the channels, as we expect to see you soon as more interesting content is coming your way. Thanks for watching, take care.